Hey guys, Flark here.
Hey guys, it's the editor. Just wanted to show everyone Flark's Discord of idiots. You should totally join if you haven't yet. We do RPGs here, we have PvP group finding, we talk about WoW PvP, we host tournaments. But none of that matters. Look at this. These are the cool dragon icons you can get as a role if you talk a lot. Think about how much cooler you would look than other people if you had one. Wow. Come join discord.gg/HOC.
And welcome to the final season, the bridge season. Going into Dragonflight, this is season 4, of course. No new real patch or content, no more conduits or triple legendaries, and the PvP tuning was a little relaxed. So this is a very similar season to season 3, but there actually were some things that I noticed, some setups that I picked up on, and some clarifications that I'd like to make that I think would help you guys really well push rating in this season. Because Unholy is still really good. So that would be a fantastic opportunity for you guys to get maybe one more chance at Glad Mount. This one actually does look pretty okay. So if you guys are going for that, by the end of the season, MMR will have inflated and you might be able to give that a quick go. So this guide should help you be in the position to do that as effectively as possible. Before I get into the talents and everything, a standard Flark guide, I just wanted to say, yes, I know I said this, but yes, Unholy is still good. That's a big question I've been getting. Is it still going to be good this season? Absolutely. One conduit was nerfed, just one. And, well, we have other good conduits. And it was just a 50% nerf to one conduit. That's one conduit that affects one ability that already does an obscene amount of damage even without the conduit. That's one ability in one window. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of other components going into why we're winning games. And while, sure, okay, so our limb isn't going to be as overwhelming as it was, there's actually a lot about this season that benefits Unholy DK. What, you may ask? Great question. Health pools are going way, way, way up relative to the damage that you're doing. Generally, the damage that you were doing would scale up with the health because they would not just add secondary stats, but also add the second legendary, the 4 sets, right? The new conduit item levels, right? And that all increased your damage so much that it kept up with the increasing health pool as well. Not this time. No triple legendaries this season, guys. And when you look at a piece of gear, look at how much stamina you're getting per upgrade versus how much secondary stats. And you'll notice something. It's way, way more stamina. Your damage will go up a little bit. Your health will go up a lot bit. And that's very valuable for Unholy because we have things like Death Strike. Percentage health-based heals that scale very well with having a lot more health and a lot more health pools to go through. You got Death Strike. More burst means it heals more, so they'd have to do even more damage to you to get your higher health pools down, which means your Death Strike with the higher health pools are going to heal for more. And of course, Fleshcraft, Sacrificial Pact, AMS scales with health, Fallen Crusader scales with max health, even Necrotic Wounds scales with max health. It says it right there. Up to 5% of your max health per stack, that's 30%. That's actually a huge heal. And it does. If you look at your meters after a game, it ends up being a ton of healing. So not only all of that, but if people are doing less damage relative to health pools, then you know what's king? Sustained pressure and the double mortal strike effect that Unholy brings. And that's another boon to Unholy's playstyle right now, where sustain is a little bit more value. The high uptime, the double MS, the never-ending damage. You know what I mean by high uptime? It means that not the DKs are the most mobile, but you got pets and diseases and more Army of the Dead pets and Death Coil at a range and Clawing Shadows at a range. So really hard to shed your pressure. So yes, to anybody who's not got anything to do before Dragonflight and you just want to know that Unholy didn't get destroyed by that nerf, not at all. Unholy is still fantastic and you will absolutely have a great time. I will be getting my Glad Mount soon and I hope you guys are able to get there as well because I believe in you. So let's go into the actual guide now. Talents. Things are already going to start off crazy. I know you can see them over here, and you're seeing something that looks a little different. Let's talk about Clawing Shadows first. This ended up taking over as the definitive talent through the entire expansion, despite All Will Serve being better in PvE and Infected Claws seeming like it'd have a ton of value because it scales great with Necrotic Wound. I mean, not scales, it just synergizes, right? The more wounds you have, the more likely your Necrotic Wounds is going to have a high uptime. That makes sense. Clawing Shadows is too important. Because it also synergizes with Necrotic Wounds because you can spend wounds more comfortably because you can do it at a range, meaning you can apply Necrotic Wounds at a range. And also just being able to spend with all the modifiers and interactions that wounds have, Convocation of the Dead. Just the high damage that it does. The high damage that clawing does when it goes through armor and scales with your mastery, of which we have a ton of. Spoiler alert, right? So ends up just being way too impactful to have all that ranged pressure. You can use it while you're kited, or you can use it while you're kiting against like Turbo or something. You can still pressure them while changing them and making it so they can't counter pressure you as well. I mean, that's a fantastic tool. So yeah, that entire row is good. Flying Shadows is just too good. Run it. Okay, now we get to the saucy stuff, right? So I said something about a nerfed conduit. Well, we do have other good conduits. Here's something crazy. Before you guys like are freaking out. Did you know that Death Coil and Virulent Plague have a plus 30% modifier in PvP? Do you guys remember that? It was 2 seasons ago. They applied it because Unholy was so bad. And now Unholy is so good, but it's still in the game, right? And it should be. I mean, Unholy is so good because of its never-ending pressure. You can't just start nerfing it now. It's not like it's destroying the meta. I mean, there's still plenty of other good comps. Turbo, DH Boomy, you've seen them. But anyway, as a result, that buff is still in the game. Virulent Plague and Death Coil have a plus 30% modifier in PvP. This is true. So they do more damage when they're hitting a PvP target than hitting a PvE target. Which means, well, that Conduit was nerfed, right? Brittle Grasp. We have 2 conduits. One that interacts with Death Coil. The other one that interacts with Virulent Plague. Both of which buffed in a PvP environment, making them even more powerful to use in a PvP environment. So I'm going to give you 2 builds, and I think you can guess what they are. 1, Eben Fever with Lingering. 2, Embrace Death with Harbinger. And I believe that you should run either of those while you're pushing. These are not gimmicks. It's just 1 talent, 1 conduit, and you get huge value out of either the Death Coil procs. With Harbinger, 2 Death Coil procs, I've seen a hit for 26k. Not as a gimmick, just those 2 things, just that talent and that conduit. And then Eben Fever is just your top damage. Virulent Plague is just your top damage. It's awesome. Never-ending sustain. Yeah, you have to apply it more often, but it's worth it. So Eben Fever. You still run Unholy Blight. Of course you can. Nothing has changed. It wasn't nerfed. Pets weren't nerfed. Blight damage wasn't nerfed. Of course this is still good. But I'm giving you guys 2 builds that I think might take over because of that conduit nerf and the other conduits that we can run. And these are the 2. So first, Clawing, of course. Eben is fixed, we know this. Pestilent, because you don't need Harbinger if you don't have the Death Coil conduit. Spell Eater, you know how I feel about this. Spell Eater, it's like Death Pact in that it provides survivability against magic teams, but it also provides anti-CC for 10 seconds, which is an enormous amount of time and so valuable. Wraithwalk provides anti-CC, but I don't think it's as good as Spell Eater because most CC is magical. Wraithwalk would only be better against physical roots like Survival Hunter. Run it against Survival Hunter. For sure. Death Pact, I just don't think it has that much value. Unholy Pact, obviously. Unholy Assault still. A lot of people have asked me about Bargain Army of the Damned. Not great. We have a lot more secondary stats right now. Crypt Fever actually doesn't scale with your mastery, even though it's shadow damage. It's all percentage health based. Percentage health based ability is very weird. Sometimes they scale with mastery, sometimes they don't. Fell Lance for Demon Hunter scaled with its mastery. Crypt Fever does not. I have 70% mastery, and that still ticks for 2k. I think I went in and tested it early, like season 2, but I can tell you it's not good. I can tell you for a fact Army of the Dead Necro Bargain is not good. Army of the Damned Necro Bargain, not good. Unholy Assault, so much haste. Haste is valuable. Scales multiplicatively with the haste that you have from your stats, so it just gets better and better every season. Isn't that crazy? 4 wounds means you instantly get to start going into your burst with your full uptime on Necrotic Wounds 6 stack. It just gets you into that burst window quicker. Unlimited damage, and haste is so valuable for Unholy. As you know, so many globals to go through, and this helps you get through them. So yeah, this is setup number 1. PVE Talents. Very standard. Clawing is the biggest thing I've leaned over to, I think, in my a year ago. In my last video for like season 2, I was like, oh, these are all good, but no. Clawing Shadows is the best. Okay, so that's the Eben Fever setup. So of course, again, you need to run this conduit. I'll talk about conduits more cohesively at the end, but you know, it's pertinent information right now. Lingering Plague is what you would run with that. And then to run the Death Coil setup, there it is. Right? See how I said Unholy Blight isn't terrible? Now you just swap this to Embrace Death. Easy. This hits for 26k Death Coils. You still have Unholy Blight if you've gotten used to that playstyle. Tons of pet damage. And this setup, hyper sustain, never ending. It's crazy how much damage your dot does from this. Crazy. Let's talk about PvP talents. Strangulate. I wasn't high on this. That was a mistake. I admit my mistakes. I have to. With the ego that I have and the intensity that I bring to every situation, the noise that comes out of my dumb mouth, I have to admit my mistakes. I was a little too low on Strangulate. Very good. Yeah, it has a low range. That was my personal problem. It's like you're asphyxiating them from 30 yards, and then you have to strang out, you have to run over to them and run back, but you have the tools for that. Disease damage, clawing damage, pet damage. You're losing almost nothing, especially if you claw on your way over there. You can claw a couple times, strang him, and then come back in. You lose almost nothing. You should be kiting most of the time as Unholy against a lot of comps anyway. Against Turbo, against Ret Warrior, and against the ranged, you kind of position yourself in the middle of that triangle. You can CC the healer, and you can hit the range because of your range damage. Strang, very good. Kind of an auto pick, actually, which is my mistake, so make sure you run it. Necrotic Wounds is an auto pick. That one, of course, nobody made that mistake. Necrotic Wounds is permanent. You actually don't play any comps without this. That would be completely foolish. So you've never switched off this talent since it was released, and you have to play like that. Unless you're playing like double DPS into double DPS in twos, but even then, if the DPS heal each other or heal themselves, you actually get a big heal from Necrotic Wounds as well. Just always run it. Let's be real. Now this is my guy. I've always been higher on him than most, and it still ended up being fine for me. I mean, 3,200, 3,250 MMR last season, and I haven't played Unholy in a while, so honestly, that was a decent push. That hurts. But Raise A-Bomb is my pick. He applies wounds, which is fantastic because you can claw them. He does damage. He pulls out stealthy. He has rot. He also applies your disease, which is nice. When Virulent Plague is half the duration, you have to spend a lot of more runes applying it. You don't want to waste runes like that. Unholy doesn't have the same rune generation power that Frost has. So Raise A-Bomb is actually really good for that. And he does disappoint a little bit with targeting, as I always say in every video. But hit who he hits. Spend your wounds. You got Clawing Shadows. If you apply 6 wounds to an off target and you're cleaving, swap to the off target, get everything out of them, get hots on them. Like say you swap to an off target, our druid has to hot up that target, and then you swap back. Now the other guy has no hots on him, and you still have damage because A-Bomb was the one who applied all those wounds. I mean, in that case, he's the genius. You're the stupid one. He knows who to hit, right? So, it's not the end of the world when he missed targets, and of course he does. But the pulling out of stealth against our all rogue mage, all jungle, rogue anything really. Getting combat, stopping saps, really powerful. But, of course, not everybody likes the Raise A-Bomb, and there's 2 other very important options. Necrotic Aura, for when you're playing with magic damage, Ret, other DKs, Demon Hunter, and then, of course, any caster. Aflock is going to be really good DK this season. Aflock DK, that's a no-brainer. Demo DK, that's a no-brainer. It's a Necrotic Aura, of course. Spell Warden if you're going to die. I don't even need to tell you when to use this. Of course, it was nerfed. You're like, but it was nerfed. It's trash now. Wrong. Scales with health pools. Spell Warden gives you an absorb shield based on your health pool. So it was nerfed, but your health is so much higher in proportion to damage that it was actually just stayed the same. There's pretty much no nerf on this. It's just as good as it was into spellcasters before for survivability. The only thing is that it slows their casting a little less, but that was so extremely disruptive to spellcasters that you would still want to do that. Okay, so it's a little less now. You're still immortal. You still disrupt them. That's all very powerful. For 1 PvP talent, of course you're going to run that. So Spell Warden, double casters. Necro Aura, when you're playing with the caster, or a DH, or a Ret Paladin. And Raise A-Bomb, when you have a soft spot in your heart for Raise A-Bomb. He does do a lot of damage this season. Like, honestly, with all the haste and mastery we have, scaling up your pet damage, if you ever get a Soul Reaper proc, I swear I've seen him hit for 18k. 18k! That's the craziest A-Bomb hit I've ever seen. It's not going to happen all the time, but it's kind of nice. Everything else doesn't matter. Doomburst is really good, but you just can't slot it in. Everything else doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. There you go. Talents. So did you remember? These 3 PvP talents? This guy or this guy are the options. That's 5 in total. Give you 5 options. Strength is always good. Necrotic Wounds is always good. Spell Warden, Raise A-Bomb, and Necrotic Aura are the 3 that maybe you rotate out. Even Fever with Virulent Plague Conduit. Harbinger of Doom, and Unholy Blight with the Death Coil Conduit. Keeping my hands off the screen for just a second. Take that in. Concrete information. You're loving it. Okay. Stats. Legendary stayed 291. Keep Frenzied. Keep Unity. I put my Unity on my ring now. Allows you to control the stats more. I try and get my stats around this. Let me show you right now. 25 to 30% verse. If you go over 30%, it's not going to kill your character, but you're just losing so much damage. Because that could be haste, which gives you faster globals, gives you faster rune generation, gets your burst off more often. Instead, you're just getting like 3% more damage and what, 1.5% damage reduct? That's not saving you. Of course, versatility is king stat in PvP. Well, look, you have a lot of it. 1032 is a lot of it. It's pretty much the most I have. Well, I have a ton of mastery because of something I'll show you in a second. But yeah, that's still a ton. If you're more around 30%, that's fine. If you're at 35, I think you're missing out. If you're at 35%, go down, get some haste. The way you do that is by switching the stats on your legendary. Boom, easy, right? Versatility mastery changes to haste mastery. Boom, you're done. Now you sacrificed a ton of verse, which will get you back below 30%. You probably got 7% haste out of it. You're loving it. That's so good. It's going to smooth out your rotation so much at the cost of what, 3% damage? It's nothing. So that's how you do it. As much haste and mastery as you possibly can. I have a ton of mastery. I'll show you why in just 1 second. Haste is still a phenomenal stat. Again, smooths out your rotation. Very important for Unholy that has so much clunky globals in the beginning. Crit is terrible. Avoid it at all costs. I'm not running Insignia WoW right now. I probably should, strictly for showing you what my stat layout with that is. I was doing a more one-shot-y twos with fear sort of thing. If you're looking to, like, if you have PI and you have Dark Arc and you have a banner and you want to one-shot somebody, you still run the badge because when you press your go, the badge activates immediately. But Insignia is for the better stat layout. Look at the stat layout. 23% haste, 26% verse, 70% mastery. That's insane. You can only imagine my output. It's completely insane. This is what you want to try and strive for. Just keep that verse low and funnel the stats into haste and mastery. Avoid crit at all costs and you'll be able to make this. This is not rocket science. This isn't rocket science. The way to get these stats is by getting out of too much verse into the arc point and being completely empty on crit. So what am I talking about when I say I do something crazy? Well, here's one crazy thing. I switch my I switch my waist to a tier set waist. You can actually go to the catalyst converter guy and put your waist in, and he'll make that part of the PVE set, which has haste main stat and the mastery off stat instead of verse. That helps me keep my verse a little lower, so I'm not at like 35%. And it gives you a ton of haste, which is fantastic. No bad stats, no crit there. PVE gear is fine. And you can get this just by putting the PvP waist in the converter. That's one thing I did. Here's another thing I did. I got the Soul Warp Seal of Menethil. I have enough stats. This ring has existed, obviously, for a while. It was in last season too. Why didn't anybody run it? Well, this is interesting. While the extra secondary stats you get from item levels increases are not that important, the effect from the extra effect on this ring does get heavily increased by item levels, right? If instead of getting like 10 mastery from some verse from a PvP ring and just some secondary stats that don't end up mattering too much, because look at my secondary stats, they're nearly perfect. There was nothing I'd change for the world, right? When this thing upgrades an item level, the disease increased damage on it goes way up. So instead of just like another little stat stick of a ring, I have an effect that's extremely powerful and I still have all the secondary stats that I want. There's no reason not to run this. I lose some health. We have tons of health. I lose some verse. I have tons of verse. I would love to get a mythic. Can't get that right now. Not much of a mythic raider. But I lose almost nothing. And I gain immense disease damage in what you're putting the dots together, right? Well, that's really good with Eben Fever. And Lingering Plague. And the fact that your Virulent Plague is buffed by 30% PvP. All those things work together. You combine them with the Soul Warped Seal of Menethil, and that's a lot of fucking damage, and you lose almost nothing. So it's like stupid not to run it at this point. You lose almost nothing. Look at all that mastery I'm getting. This is crazy how hard I hit, and I lose almost nothing. So that's the sauce. You put on your 4 set. Same 4 pieces as always. Helm, shoulders, chest. Legs. Frenzied Monstrosity Drapes. Unity Ring. Soul Warped Seal of Menethil. And make sure you convert this waist. And you'll have stats like me. And people will be scared in pre-made group. Yo, what the fuck? Are you the Look Check PvP? Are you 3,500 EXP? Who is this guy? What is this? Who is this DK? Look him up. Who is this guy? That's how much damage you're going to be doing. Completely fucking asinine. That's how much damage you're going to be doing. Yeah. It's that ridiculous. So put that together. There's your set. Final thing. Covenant Necrolord. Now we figured that one out. Conduits. Talked about this. Exact same. Eternal Hunger. Deathstrike Conduit. Convocation. Lichborn Conduit. Then Shield Resistance. And you're swapping out the recently nerfed Brutal Plague. This is only 30% PvP. Now you could still run it if you want to. But if you want to try either of my new builds I'm recommending. Lingering Plague with Eben Fever. Embrace Death with Harbinger of Doom. If you want to, if you're just neither of those have been working for you, Brutal Grasp, well, it's 30% now. That's it. There's not some magic wizardry going on like, oh, if you do this and that and the other thing, it regains its value. No, it's 30% now. You can slot it in. It's just 50% worse. And there you go. That, my friends, is everything I can think of to lead you through the end of this season going into Dragonflight. Dragonflight does look really good. I'm very, very excited. Play TSG with a Fury Warrior. Maybe an Arms Warrior, but probably a Fury Warrior. Play Demon Hunter DK. Play Demo DK. Play Aflock DK. Or even Hunter DK. Those are 5 comps that I would recommend for you. Demon Hunter, Warrior, Aflock, Demo Lock, BM Hunter. Or Survival Hunter. So 6 specs, 4 classes. Those are the things I would play with this season. Arshaman, Priest, Ardruid, they're all probably still good. Priest gives you PI. Arshaman gives you Purge, Earth Ellie, Ground. Some great area of effect denial like Earthen and Tide down. Then Ardruid is just the Sustain Master with Hots on you. If you kite melee and you have Hots on you, it's very easy to like recover slowly. So very high sustain throughput keeps you going for a long time. That's what you're going to do this season. It's probably all I got for this season. We'll see what happens. It's my last tidbit of wisdom for Unholy until Dragonflight. And I hope to see you guys there. I'm doing Dragonflight giveaways on my stream, so if you don't have it yet, feel free. I don't have that many viewers. Remember, I'm kind of passionate, so scare people away sometimes. Maybe you could win it. Could be you. So I'll see you then. Peace.